It has nothing to do with you being Republican, Democrat, Independent. We all got to eat, pay our bills, take care of our families. What leadership do we have that's going to make sure it happens?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. On this episode, I have this charming person, Diyonne McGraw. Diyonne and I go back over 20 years, actually, but I didn't know her by name. I just knew that she was Coach McGraw's wife and was helping out at a rural school in Stark, Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to have her here because she's a small business owner. She's been in politics, not that she wants to be in politics, as a member of the school board of Alachua County, which is located in north central Florida. And she's just going to share her story today. I thought she'd be awesome to have on. I have found her to be an honest, welcoming, warm person, and we're going to get into it today. So, Diyonne, welcome.
Well, good morning, and I thank you so much, Ben, for inviting me here this morning. But I'm excited to be here.
So, I was in politics at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in politics at one time.
Yeah.
But really, it all starts in. So for me, it actually started with service. Before I ever ran for city, I had served the community through volunteer positions all over for many, many years.
Absolutely.
And then it sort of happened, and I looked at, I got to do my research, your resume. You served a lot.
I served a lot, and that's what you have to do. And part of growing up, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, my mother served a lot. My pastor was the last standing witness with Dr. King.
Really?
And so every MLK Day celebration, we had it at our church. You had Andrew Young there, Jesse Jackson. I saw those people every year on a regular basis. That's how we were raised. And so when they had sanitation worker problems, we used to be with our families, surround the courthouse, praying the whole time around the courthouse for the outcome that we wanted. So all of that was in part of my upbringing. And so when I got to, graduated and all through high school, I volunteered because my mother worked for children and family services in Memphis. So being an only child, we always had a foster child or something at our house every weekend, just about, because I was the only child.
Sure.
And so growing up, we had to volunteer. Service, that's your purpose of life, is what we were taught as young people. So when I arrived at in Alachua County, I hit the ground running, got involved with MLK, then got involved, used to work on Pegeen Hands campaigns.
And she was the mayor of Gainesville at one time.
Joined different city and county boards, Parks and Recreation Board, Public Works Board, you named it. Alachua County Forever Board, being part of the chamber.
Builders Association, I saw that somewhere.
Association, so many organizations. My list goes on and on. But that's how you build relationships, networking and giving back. And when you give back, it's a blessing in giving. And so that's how I was raised. That's just a part of who I am. That's my inner being.
So I want to go back to something for 1 second. You mentioned Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to share something with you.
Okay.
It's possible that I did this on a podcast, too, sometime. I auditioned for American Idol. Back in 2006, I think it was.
Singing?
I'm a singer. I'm not going to do anything here.
Oh, we may have to cut a song. We may have to cut a record.
We might. Well, I did it in, so the audition was actually at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
So I've only been to Memphis one time.
Oh, wow.
And what was really cool is everybody there kind of thought you were a celebrity if you were there. There were thousands of people auditioning. They thought you were a celebrity. They put an armband on you. So if I went to the to line up to go to the American Idol audition, you put on an armband and you wore that around. You didn't actually come back for like either the next day or the day after.
Wow.
So I had to go check out Memphis, okay? And I went to Beale Street, the Beale Street Jumpers. I tried some barbecue. I actually went to the Civil Rights Museum.
Yes.
I went there too.
Yes.
I stood where Martin Luther King was shot. There's a wreath there. They have
hotel.
They have his bed set up the room, all that stuff. So was it your father, you said? Who was a witness?
My pastor.
Your pastor.
Reverend Samuel Billy Cowles. He was on the balcony that day with Dr. King when he died, when he got shot and killed. And part of what we had to do, that's where I worked. I volunteered as a tour guide in high school, taking people around for the tours at the action. Now, it's grown, because
Sure.
I'm 55 years
I
old
got
now.
you.
But we had to do that as a part of our summer commitments, because everything, when you got out of high school or a school period, you were at the church. You had to learn about the Word of God.
Sure.
You had your educational trips. You had vacation Bible school with summer camp, and then we took trips. And part of what we had to do is work.
Yeah.
And all of us had to do the tours every week because people were coming at the Lorraine Motel, which is a museum.
And
now.
so you worked at the hotel.
Oh yeah, worked at the hotel, the museum, everything that they have, and I was so happy about. I gave my mother a surprise 75th, and so I was able to go back to Memphis. Oh God, back in last June, and I'm telling you, to see how Memphis has grown, and in the tourism that is taking place in Memphis because of that particular hotel,
Yeah.
that museum. It's not. You need to go. You need to be able to go to Memphis and spend probably about a week,
Yeah.
so that you can see, because it's also that Underground Railroad piece that was there, where a lot of people didn't know that. They think of just the Harriet Tubman, but they
Yeah.
had all kinds of underground places where they could hide people, get
Sure.
people through, and to see how they have just really grown and added to that site. It's amazing.
You know what I wish people would do, Don? And I've told you, I mean, I probably shouldn't be. I probably should just be an independent because I don't care for either party.
Yeah.
I've been a registered Republican for many, many years. And you're a registered Democrat. I wish people would keep an open mind.
I wish.
Because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, they're not one size fit all, right? You kind of just align over here, maybe more conservative values or more values over here, but the American value is what I care about. And, I wanted to go check out that museum. I wrote a paper in college about Martin Luther King, and to get on the bus that, it was it's like a replica bus, right? And have the bus driver kind of say, "Get to the back," and talk. It was kind of an animated thing. I think we should appreciate American history and learn about it and be open-minded to all of it. So
because it is what it is. Neither one of us lived back then, but it's important to understand because it helps you work with people.
Sure.
And I think that's extremely important. I've always been a very open, straightforward person. And sometimes that, some people don't like that.
No, they don't.
But my family grew up as Democrats. Now, I can tell you, my mother was a Democrat. And remember, I'm only child now, so it was my mother and I grew up with. But my uncles, my mother's brothers, they were all Republicans.
Interesting.
Because back in the day, remember, most African Americans were Republicans.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But the thing is, it's about your values, your morals, and what you believe, and how, just like what I say with the school board, how I was able to build a relationship because they saw I care for all children. But remember, I've been serving children ever since I walked into Alachua County, because I did the same thing when I was a student in Tallahassee.
So I want to go there because you were on the school. You were elected to the school board of Alachua County.
Right.
You were removed by the governor, Ron DeSantis, because your line was not the line that was coming, maybe, because it was actually.
Well, they tried to say I was 300 feet outside the district, but it was a political move.
I got you.
And now I'm very open, to talking about this, because it's like, let's be fair. I ran a clean race.
Sure.
I ran on my issues. However, sometimes people can't handle that.
That's right.
And so you actually had my former opponent, Miss Banco, Colleen Banco, who sat down and they plotted and planned. Now, they knew, because she wrote a letter to the governor and said, because they wanted to get at Carly, Dr. Simon.
Okay.
I was kind of just the middle piece. You know how politics go.
I do know politics.
We got to take, because they felt McGraw was the strongest. And everybody thought I was going to come on this board and follow. I'm going to always do, those who truly know me, I'm going to always do what's best for kids. And so Colleen Banco, she wrote a letter to the governor. I don't want the seat. I just think the people deserve better. And we're going to challenge every vote that Miss McGraw has made 3-2 vote, especially the one about the superintendent. That's what, but you got to remember too, if you're running for office, you're going to go to the supervisor election office, right?
That's right.
They're supposed to tell you if you're in a district or not. But that's besides the point. 102.168, that's the statute that says any unsuccessful candidate, any taxpayer, even you, your mama, whoever, your sister, you could have gone and contested within 10 days. 10 days. So I won August 18th, 2020. August 28th, that's your 10-day mark. You can't come back post-election and remove someone from their seat. It's against the law. But they played the game. And when you play the game, you made it political, you put a change.org out there because people get excited. They don't read.
Sure.
They don't read. They just say, oh man, look at what this said. And you know how that message goes.
Oh, I do.
And once it's gone, that's what people believe.
That's right.
But the supervisor election office could have come and said, I made a mistake.
Understand?
We certified her. We qualified her. I'm qualified. I'm certified. I'm on the ballot. And then after I'm serving, now I didn't want, and I've been serving for 7.5 months, and you come and remove me from my seat.
I have a little insight to this. That you probably really weren't the target.
No.
There were some others involved on the school board that they didn't care for, and they could just get to you because they couldn't get to them at the time, I think. And so what's interesting about that story, though, is you run again for office, and then you win, and then you serve. And you didn't follow in lockstep like people believed you would. You have your, believe it or not, an independent mind.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Who can think on their own and make decisions.
Make decisions.
And ultimately,
Yep.
it cost you too again. But wouldn't you rather it go that way than to just do what everybody, like, fall in line? Because that's what happens. People just fall in line, keep your seat, and sit there for 3 decades and do nothing.
Yeah, but
I mean that not to just the school board. I just mean that in politics in general.
Exactly. But one of the things I look at, I served, but I've always served.
That's right.
However, in serving, sometimes when you lose, rejection means protection. Especially for those who are faith walkers. Everybody knows I'm very strong in my faith. And sometimes God will remove you from a situation because he already knows what's coming down the pipeline. And so you never know what's coming down the pipeline. So I was okay because you know what? I served a total of three and a half years maybe. But in that 2-year term, look at all that was accomplished. I was able to help. I'm talking about Diyonne McGraw. I was able to help change the atmosphere. Along with a superintendent who also had a very calm, godly spirit. It makes a difference.
Well, when you came in, it was actually a very turmoil district. And you guys brought a new superintendent.
Exactly.
What is your advice?
Well, he was already there. Now, remember now, Shane was there when we arrived. Mr. Andrew was there when we arrived.
Okay.
He was there. He was appointed by the previous board.
Gotcha. Okay.
However, we all know that Shane, 30-some years commitment to this school district, he was there to make a difference. And you know what? He did an excellent job because you got to think about it. If you and I are colleagues and we've been working together, now all of a sudden I'm your boss, that's a big shift that you have to be able to do.
It is.
And I think he did it extremely well because, for one, he knew how to talk to people. And when you know how to talk to people and approach people and build relationships, it's easier. That's how I was successful. You look at it, one of the things I'm so proud of is that barbering program. I just happened to be over in Lincoln Middle School, and a gentleman that was a barber part-time, he worked it, but his full-time business was being a barber. And he said, hey, I want to do something for these kids. These kids need something, especially those who are not going on to college. I said, well, let's make it happen. He said, well, everybody tells me that, and I've been trying to do this for the last 4 or 5 years, Ms. McGraw. I said, we're going to do it. And in 90 days, Mr. Andrew went and met. We got that program approved, and look at it. It got over 50,000 likes on Facebook when it first came out. And we started with our 12th graders last year, and this year we started 9th grade. And the barbering class is going great. And guess what? The kids who used to get in trouble all the time, guess what?
Not getting in trouble?
No, because they have something to look forward to.
Let me ask you a question. it seems like telling everybody college is the answer. And I have a business degree. You have a business degree.
Right.
But I know a lot of people. I know individuals. I know young men and women who have come from educated families
Right.
who they don't go to college. It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
And you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and it's very difficult. It's challenging. I mean, me personally in public schools, which I had a great education. I've been told I have ADHD. I'm like, whatever. And college, yeah, I went later when I was 23 or 24. I didn't care about school.
Right.
Now, my favorite teacher was a guy named Mr. Ayers. He was an 8th grade science teacher that I had. And I got an A in his class to the point where he said, I want to recommend you for honors classes in high school. You did so great.
Right.
Well, then I got to the high school honors classes, which I ended up passing my freshman and sophomore year. But the teacher, the way he taught, he made it so interesting, and it was hands-on because I'm a hands-on person.
That's right.
I'm not a black and white piece of paper,
Right.
the cellular membrane. I'm like, what? But if you'll put something in front of me that I'm like, oh, okay, this thing here. And so we all learn differently. And I feel like what you tried to do was sort of bring more vocational stuff type education back.
We did. And because of that, matter of fact, it's funny, yesterday got an email, the community CTE board, which is career and technical education. That's the new term instead of vocational for career and technical education. And so we started that group of 50-some people, and we're starting up again. You know, our new superintendent, she wants to continue that because everybody's not going to college. And I can tell you, having 3 kids, you know, is on the child. I had 2 summa cum laude and a thank you laude. Lord, we gonna make it out. And my son and all of my kids have finished college. But one of the things I love is that kids are thriving because that's the same way we grew up. When we grew up, my friends walked across the stage with their uniform on if they were going to be a fireman, if they were going to be a police officer. Those days, and to see the diversity, I miss those kind of things because guess what? I'm proud because if we start, and that's why we have to start early. We're too late now. We're behind the 8 ball. 5th grade, we should know what route all of these kids are taking. So when they get to 6th through 8th grade, we're acting upon that. Coming to school, they're learning. They're taking field trips. Like I love BizTown.
Yeah.
You know, the financial literacy piece, but also learning about how to run a business, those type of things. So those things are beginning to happen. They were beginning to happen before I left the school board because, as you said, everybody's not going to college, but that doesn't mean you can't be successful.
That's right.
Think about it. I went to college, enjoyed my experience. But I wish I would have done some things differently because now that I'm in my own business, being able to be a business owner, I mean, it's wonderful.
Sure.
And I'm making more money because you got to think about most of the people in my generation, we were told go to college, get a degree, but look how much debt we had.
That's
You
right.
had to have student loans to go to school because everybody can't, pay. And
That's
one
right.
thing I can say, I worked hard so that my kids would not have that. All of them went to school on scholarships. They have no student loan, no debt. So that's a blessing. But if I could have done some things differently, I would have made sure I got some type of certification in some type of career or technical field. Now I worked. Now my mother, I've been working since I was 13 years of age because my mama knew everybody. But I worked at the supervisor election office. I worked for judges. I worked for attorneys, worked at the public defender's office. I always had good jobs because of the connections that I had coming up. But one of the things we're lacking now, if you look at our workforce and you look at our young people, they are not prepared. They are not ready, the majority of them, especially those who come from those challenging backgrounds. If you have the support, you will probably be okay. You have opportunities. But that challenging background, all of those kids that may be at an alternative school or what have you, during the day, they should be doing career and tech education along with behavior management. So you're learning to change your behavior. It'll make a world of a difference. That's why when I first came on the school board, I tried to address behavior. That career and tech education and behavior, they go hand in hand.
When you give someone something they're interested in doing, instead of trying to force something down their throat that they have no business. And you know what the kids say. Now, I'm saying this, and I will plead some ignorance.
Yeah.
It's based on past stuff. That what do I need to learn this for?
Right.
Like, I'm never going to use this. I mean, the reality is, I know in college I took calculus.
Yeah.
What I need to know is how to write a check.
That's right.
I need to know how to open bank. I learned how to do what a debit card was and how all that worked because my local bank taught me.
Right.
I had no clue coming out of high school.
Right.
And I really think those type things. There was a class that I had. There was Miss Randolph was my teacher, and even Shay Showers was for a minute.
Okay.
It was called LMS, Life Management Skills.
Uh-huh.
And
we used to have something like that.
those were important things that start teaching you stuff to get you ready. Because when you turn 18, I don't even know what the percentage of kids that even go to college is.
Right. Well, I can tell you, even with the kids in college, when I supervised my undergrads at the University of Florida, they're great at putting PowerPoints together and presenting well. And I had one young lady, she ran for treasurer, did an outstanding job presenting. Yep. Then we got to the meeting and she says, Miss McGraw, I don't know how to write a check. I said, you don't know how to write a check? You're a sophomore in college. But that was our reality.
Yeah.
That was our reality.
And those things become important. I know, well, we're using credit cards now, but that's not the point. The point is she'd be teaching life management type skills. So you're a small business owner. What is that like?
That's been a journey because and what people are afraid of is I consult and I mentor people now. And one of the first things I tell them, first, what's your faith? Because what's your work habits like? Because people think, your work ethics. People think because when you say you want to work for yourself, that means it's just like if I was getting up and having to go to a 9-to-5 job. You got to get up every morning. You got to set a schedule. If you're really going to build that business. Because I started kind of self-employment, started my business in 2000 as a support coordinator through the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. In 2008, I switched over to group homes. I did that daycare thing. Ooh, that was a nightmare because I partnered. And that partnership didn't go well. And sometimes, and people have to understand that in business, you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. But if you are not a strong person and know how to pick yourself up, if any little thing is going to take you off track or you can't overcome those obstacles that you're going to deal with, then you're not going to make it. Me, I was taught that. My mother always worked 2 or 3 jobs. I always had a home business on the side. So that was instilled in me. Now, my mother she was the type of, no, you need to go to school and get your degree. But I stepped out. I stepped out on faith. And I tell people in my story, I love it because November 19th, 2002, as a probation officer, I was sitting at my desk. And it was like the Lord came to me and said, hey, if you want to work for yourself, you got to step out. I said, Lord, I can't step out. I don't have any money. I have 2 kids at that time in daycare. No. But I did it. I left when it was Christmas time. December 19th, 2002 was my last day. And I got my real estate license.
Okay.
And so I went to Action Real Estate.
Okay.
And worked with Orion Green. And then I left and went to Boss Hart because they had a very good robust training program. So I learned a lot, got trained. Then stepped out, went to Rodney Long Realty so that I could keep more of my money. It's just Rodney and I had met Rodney when I first came to Gainesville. So stepped out, and I'm telling you, the journey has been good because I prayed, I worked, I read, I went to banks, I met with people who were in business. Harvey Budd, who's one of my very good friends. Harvey sat down with me, had some real tough conversations. Some of the local bankers here, they sat down with me. So you need to change this. You need to do this. There were nights I cried. My husband was like, look, if you're going to do it, just keep going. I had a very supportive husband, because some people tell you, look, and then sometimes, because sometimes men, because, my cousin who, I tell him he's male chauvinistic sometimes. Well, a woman doesn't really need to make a lot more money than her husband. I said, you're crazy. It benefits. But my husband and I were like brothers and sisters because we met in my freshman year of college, but we started dating my very beginning of my sophomore year of college. So we've been together 30-some years. And so I was glad that I had that support to allow me the room for me to fail, make mistakes, And that's part of that journey as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And now I thank God that I'm very successful.
I want to talk about that female role. That what's that song? It's A Man's World or something, right? And you come into this look, I've got a great mom, a wife, a sister. I've when I was a commissioner or city manager was a female.
Right.
I think just talk about, was that challenging to try to get respect of other business people being a female? And if it was 20 years ago, you were a little younger at the time, maybe they think you're, I don't know, more naive or something. What challenges did any of that did you face, and obstacles?
Well, the challenge is, I had some men would say, "Your husband gonna let you go that much? That takes a lot of time." I said, "Yeah, he gonna be right there with me because I got my husband certified so that we work the business together."
Sure.
But it was a challenge, and also some people, what I noticed when I came to Alachua County, people, I'm a dreamer, and I get it. There's some people who just want to get up, they want to go to work, go to church, just set a schedule, don't want anything extra. But that's not Diyonne. That I felt like, being in an office job, I was in a cage. But when I would go out and talk to people and say, here's what I'm thinking about doing, it was very discouraging sometimes, especially with some of the men. Oh, no, you don't need to do that. You need to be home. You got young children. Maybe wait till your children get older to do those things. But then there were people who were very supportive, go for it. Because what I began to do was, like I say, find those bankers, find people I served on boards with. Hey, can I meet with you? I want to shoot some things back. Like I say, and then Harvey Budd became one of my full mentors. I used to come and he was tough. He used to say things that I didn't always agree with, but I appreciated that. And then I had, since I grew up as an only child with just my mom mostly, my dad and I, we got a wonderful relationship now that I'm older. But I had role models here in my church at First Baptist, Ken Simmons. I don't know if you know Ken Simmons. But his mother was Miss Unita Simmons.
Okay.
Lived in Alachua.
Okay.
And he was very supportive. Do what you got to do. Introduce me to people. And so then what I found was, if I'm going to be really successful, and I felt really in Alachua County, I had to work on some things and be quiet about it. And then once I had it, share it. Because that's what I learned through that process, because sometimes people can be so discouraging. But I'm a very positive people. Even when something negative, okay, how can I turn this in for good? Because things are going to happen.
I think it's interesting, and I think I'm sure Coach McGraw has maybe used this, heard this as a coach. You probably have as well, which is, you talk about Harvey Budd being difficult on you and but challenging you. It's like your coach, and they say the problem's not when your coach is yelling at you.
Right.
It's when your coach stops yelling at you.
And not saying anything.
Don't say nothing at all. And all of a sudden now you don't have anybody. And so, that's wonderful to have people who help you. I've got a lady coming on a podcast, Cheryline, in the next couple of weeks, and she does a lot of empowerment, leadership type stuff. She focuses on women, but she's broad as well. And we were talking last week, and she said, Ben, when you're young, you learn, and you're a little older, middle of your life, you start earn. And then when you get older, you return.
That's right.
And, that's what you're doing now. Now you're a mentor to people.
And I'm a mentor to people. And some people say, oh, you will meet with me? Oh, my God. And even if people say, oh, Diyonne McGraw. But I never think I'm better than anybody else, my journey. And I tell people, even when I mentor some of these young mothers who make excuses, I do mentoring groups. And I have my tissue there. I say, here, cry. I say, my thing is, we all make mistakes.
Sure.
When I had to talk about one arrest I've had in my life and different things, they go, oh, Miss McGraw, yes, I'm no better than you are. However, you can't stay in the place. And I tell them, some of them, because most of these women that come to me, they have 3, 4, 5, 6 children. By 6 or 5 or 2 or 3 different daddies. That is stressful being within itself. And I said, how are you all dealing with 2 and 3 and 4 daddies? Something, and I get it, but you're looking for love. but let's get some counseling. And I tell them, you can love a man or like a man, but you don't have to serve him your behind all the time. Give him a sandwich. And they start laughing. And that's how we kind of break the ice.
Sure.
And I go into it. But I'll empower them, because you got to think, when I was campaigning back in 2020, and so this is 25, I took 4 parents six families that were really struggling, especially when it started with COVID. And Brooks and my daughter, we used to put the books on the porch. We did Zooms with them, taught them how, got with their children, helped the children. Brooks, I had her tutoring the children. You talk about, between those 6 families, 25 kids.
Wow.
All those students are doing well.
That's wonderful.
And I came and had a friend of mine come up from Wildwood. She got all of the parents, their CNA, and I got them working in different group homes. Now,
That's
they couldn't
wonderful.
start with mine because I'm intensive behavior.
Understood.
But guess what? 5 years. This marks 5 years. That's the kind of stuff that I was even doing when I was serving with the school board, taking these parents and saying, hey, you can pick yourself up. That's what they need. You got to help them be responsible.
Absolutely.
And even in the group homes, I trespass parents. When parents are interfering, I'm not a babysitting service. I'm here to change behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And if you interfere with that, I used to bother me. Oh my God, I don't want to put somebody's parent, but you're interfering. You couldn't handle your child at home. Just give me a little time. And so a lot of them say, oh, she's such a bee. You know, they used to go. And I would say, yes, next time put Mrs. in front of it, call me Mrs. B, but you give me a year and you're going to see a difference in your child. But sometimes as leadership, you have to make tough decisions. And it may not be, likable.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? That's why we have to address. You have to address some things head on.
You think you'll get back in politics one day? Or you're still serving the community and what you're doing now.
So many people call me.
Well, because you know why, Diyonne?
I want to serve again.
It's because you touch all sides of spectrums. You're not just serving one group.
Right.
You're serving everybody, because what your mission is to help everybody.
Yeah, and that's why I was so glad when your brother, when he asked me to come up and speak to the chamber, people saw. And I talked about, a lot of people didn't know. They called me. They didn't know what was going on in their community. There were some great things. Like, y'all have the HVAC program here now.
That's right.
At Santa Fe. Oh, hi. But I'm just saying, my kids are all over the county, not just in Gainesville. In my leadership, I understood that. I told you that when I was campaigning.
Sure.
I'm going to come see about everybody.
I read somewhere that you had you went to 90% of the schools in the county within the first week or two of getting in office.
First 2 weeks.
That's important to be seen and to be approachable.
Well, if I'm going to make decisions, and I'm going to go talk to the superintendent, what am I going there to talk about? If I haven't experienced with everybody else. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a principal. That wasn't my role. But I can look and see, ask a couple of questions. Never told a principal, because that's not my role. My role is to set policies that make a difference for our kids, for the teachers, for staff. But the problem is when you trying to lead from the dais and you haven't gone into any schools to see what's going on. That's what's happening now.
So you don't know what you're talking about. I said it. Well, you do have to be. That's what equipped me when I ran for office. Is I had been involved in the community on so many levels. The business community.
Right.
I coached high school sports. I volunteered different organizations. So you have a pulse, and if you don't have a pulse,
you don't have a pulse. But I think my business background, understanding business, but also we have to understand customer service, because if you don't keep people happy, your funding it goes out the door. And that's what's happening now, because as elected officials, I think we've had colleagues who, now I didn't agree with it. You get on Facebook and you say things that are so inappropriate. And I think that's so unethical. But how are you as a leader? People see you as a leader.
Don't get me started on that one.
But it's important for people to understand. And so as we move forward, even when we look at now, you need to ask yourself, when you're voting for people, what have they accomplished? If they're divisive all the time, there's always some controversy, is that what you want to see continue to serve?
It's interesting you say that, because I'm on social media and I see what different elected officials say on social media. And I think anytime you post something on social media and you alienate a group,
Right.
whether by party, whether by background, ethnic, no matter what it is, religion,
Right.
that's divisive.
That's divisive.
I've seen it at the national level. I saw it recently where, and I want to say it was a conservative congressperson had posted something, and I thought, wow, you're in power. You have an office to unite.
Right.
Bring
To
someone,
unite.
because the thought is, if whatever, let's say my party is the microphone party.
Right.
If I want people to see my point of view,
Right.
I shouldn't push them away. Now, some say, well, you're never going to get that group. It's never going to happen.
Right.
But you can grow it. And if you're
Right.
nasty and you have a more a spiteful way of handling things, he'll go, oh, you're out the door. And I know who you're talking about. I've seen stuff and I don't like it. It's like, why would you do that?
Right.
Because I know where I'm from, the race is nonpartisan.
Right.
And I know there are people who may not like my views on things.
Right.
But I'm going to work with them. I'm going to listen to them.
Right.
And respectfully, I just disagree.
Right.
But I won't go on social media and say stuff that alienates them.
I would, and think about it. There are people that I utilize to help with my campaign.
Yeah.
But once you get on social media and you attack that individual or something you don't agree with, or you go around and say, well, don't support that person because they didn't agree with me on this way. There again, to me, that's a selfish look. Because I don't agree with you, but look at the great things that I'm still doing. Making sure things are being implemented. When you had board meetings, I showed respect. Everybody was allowed to be heard. That's what we're supposed to be doing. I went and visited. I met with people. Regardless, if you don't agree with me or not, my job is still as an elected official to listen. I chose to run for this office. Nobody forced me to.
That's right.
Now, we don't have to accept people talking to you any kind of way.
That's right.
And you can say, you know what? Now, I don't mind meeting with you, but we're going to be respectful of one another.
That's right.
I'm big on respect. You don't. And see, that's me. We may not sip coffee together every day. You may not like me. But if it's something you're doing that's benefiting children, I'm going to vote for that anyway. But what we do, we vote for people. I don't like her, or she thinks she's cute. She has enough money, but people don't know your story on how you've had to work your butt off to get where you are. So of course I'm going where I am now. I'm proud of where I am. But if you want to hold my past against me, because none of us are bigger than the other person, and everybody got some skeletons in their closet. But how you treat people. And the one thing we know, people will never forget how you make them feel. But see, I'm very strong too because I come from a very strong family of women and men.
What a blessing.
Very strong. And that's a blessing. But I'm glad. I say every day, thank God for my mother, even my dad. My dad, thank God, because both my parents are still living in their 70s. But both of them taught me how to be strong. And that's important. But also, growing up around children and family services with my mother, it also taught me how to lead with empathy and compassion. And so I tell people now, I'm being very intentional. And so when you come and you say, well, can I get your support or what have you, I'm looking at your record. What have you accomplished and made a difference? Now, you've been over here serving in, say, the city, the school board, and now you want to go to the county. Well, I'm going to look over here and see, well, what did you do that made a huge difference that I now need to pay you more money to serve, $70-some thousand. And what are you going to do different and how you going to treat people? That's the first thing. But if you don't treat people right, I'm not supporting that. I'm not. It's 2025, and we all need to begin to look at how we're going to move forward, because those people that's sitting up there, the decisions that they make, they affect all of us.
That's right.
So do I have leadership that's going to care about everybody? Whether we all got to eat. It has nothing to do with you being Republican, Democrat, Independent. We all got to eat, pay our bills, take care of our families. What leadership do we have that's going to make sure it happens? If I'm a one-sided issue, you may not agree with me on this issue, so because of this one issue, I'm just going to throw your whole candidacy out.
Well then, I got you. I'm about to. You got to have your own talk show.
Oh,
Listen, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I want to. So I'm going to go a different direction. So my wife is from Tennessee. She's from the Knoxville area.
okay, Knoxville.
So I was hoping that when we got married, I'm trying to be nice here because I don't want to get in trouble. I was looking forward to some good Tennessee cooking. I didn't get my good Tennessee cooking. Now she's an incredible person.
Yes.
She cooks some good stuff, but I wanted that Southern, that recipe that came from the family.
I'm so glad Mark is not in the room. You and your wife, we're best friends.
Okay, because you can't give me something that you grew up like this is it.
Yeah, well, my thing is, my grandmother, my granddaddy owned his own brick masonry company.
Okay.
So growing up, they spoiled me to death. I was the only grandchild at the time. My other cousin came to my dad's brother. My cousin would come for the summer, but I was the only child mainly in Memphis. So I was spoiled to death. And my mother could cook, and they cooked for me all the time. So when I got to college, had my little hazel eyes, my hair was real long. I was muscular because I played basketball, just having fun in high school. And, met Mark and everything. And he played basketball for FAMU.
Okay.
So he had played at Henderson State down in Texas. He got here. One day he said, we were talking, he said, well, can you cook? I said, I don't do no cooking now. So my husband has cooked for me. Even in college, all my sorority sisters come. Girl, Sunday, our apartment was Sunday dinner.
Okay.
Because everybody would come over. I mean, he can burn, and he still does to this day. And my kids had home-cooked meals every week, and they still like that on Sundays to have home-cooked meals. But I couldn't give him to Tennessee, but he was from Arkansas.
Okay.
And he could cook. But I told him, I said, but what I can do is build a business. I kept telling him, and I'm gonna do that, and we gonna be okay.
Oh no, and that's and let me tell you, my wife is awesome in all these other areas, and she got some little things here that she can cook. And
I'm good on cheesecake now. I do an excellent cheesecake when I sell a house. I give it to my customers.
Oh, very nice.
You know, I make it for different activities, or if I'm going to an event. People love my cheesecake. I'm better than the Cheesecake Factory.
I'm gonna take you up on that one. Well, you know the thing I wish people would do. I was just thinking about this. It was back during Christmas time. It was Facebook, and High Springs is Florida, small town, North Central Florida, dealing with some issues, whatever. But they didn't have a real nice Christmas tree like they've had in the past. And someone said, I remember growing up and that Christmas tree was nice. And now the one down there looks all dinky and stuff.
Right.
And the thought that crossed my mind wasn't, well, wow, High Springs, you don't have a nice Christmas tree.
Right.
I'm thinking about the person that made that post. How about you do something about it? How many people sit on the sideline and complain, but don't do anything?
I call it Facebook University. I tell people, you probably heard me say that. I don't do Facebook University because I'm real old school. My grandma used to tell me, if you ain't got a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of, don't say anything.
That's right.
You know, people will complain all day. You're complaining, but I'm looking at, and I look at how you living. You complain, but how are you living? What are you doing? How are you volunteering? When people say, I said, well, can I get you to volunteer in the school? You know, can I get you to serve on this? You know, the city, we need people. When you say, because I remember a long time ago when I heard at one of our city commission meetings, those who come and speak up, they get. Those who don't show up, they don't get. And everybody's not going to think about, well, you know, I'm going to care about everybody. But there are people in leadership, they said that. I was at a meeting, I said, oh, okay. So if we don't show up, you don't get. And so when people complain, I just say blah, blah, and I keep it moving because I'm looking at what have you done?
Yeah.
I haven't seen you volunteering anywhere. I haven't seen you show up at a meeting and say anything. That's why I said I'm real intentional. Real intentional. All of us need to be real intentional. You don't want to hear that. What you gonna do? And so I put it back on that person. What are you gonna do? You calling me? Okay, well, what can we do different? I don't know, but I'm just saying. You know, because and what burns me up, and I was telling my husband the other day, and I was talking to one of my sorority sisters. I said, now, these very people, they're people that were homeless, suicidal, that you took time out with to work with, spent money with when campaigning, spent $40,000 with somebody for campaigning, but they're on Facebook talking about you. I could never form my lips to say anything negative, because that's how I was raised. Especially if you helped me. Even though I may have fallen out with you or had a disagreement, I'm not going to get on Facebook and give a whole sermon about it. Do you think that's right? Because you never know when you may be traveling. I tell people that and I tell my kids, treat everybody with kindness. You may be traveling down the road, your car break down. You're going to need somebody to help you. What if your cell phone is out? You got to think about what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't do that. Everything, social media, and I tell young people all the time, it's going to be the death of some people. Because people are so cruel that if I live alone, that could cause that person to want to kill themselves.
That's right.
Suicide. And people don't think about that. They just get on Facebook and they say all kinds of things. And that's why I tell people, one thing about it, as a leader, you could look on my Facebook page and you could see what? All positive things. You could see what was going on in the schools. Keep it happy birthday. You can share some things. But to get on there and mistreat and attack people, once you do that, I understand. I see. And I tell people all the time, especially when me coming to serving kids, you may try to attack my character, but you cannot attack or touch the anointing within. Some people just call. And I know I'm called to serve. Mm-hmm. I was called to serve on the school board. And guess what? In a short period of time, I showed also in leadership. As an elected official, it doesn't take all day, and because it's state or government, it doesn't take all day to get things done if you got leadership that's willing to work with you.
Former Chair McGraw, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and for your time.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Maybe we'll have you back soon. We'll do something different.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.